Carrie Lukas with the Independent Women's Forum is on the line with us and on Skype as well. Hey, Carrie.
Hey, how are you?
I am fine. Welcome back to the program. I'm curious, I wanted to talk with you about this co-founder of Facebook, Eduardo Saverin, I believe his name is pronounced. Yeah. And this is a guy who came to the United States in 1992 from Brazil. His family is very, very wealthy. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg thought he was involved with the Brazilian mafia. They went to school together at Harvard. He put up the $15,000 that was used to start Facebook. He became a citizen in 98, and then he left the country apparently a couple of years ago, moved to Singapore, where he's been living full-time. And sometime during this last year, we're not really sure when, gave up his U.S. citizenship. He's not saying anything. In fact, part of the court settlement in his lawsuit against Zuckerberg and against Facebook was that he would not talk to the press anymore. So nobody really knows why he gave up his U.S. citizenship. And that's what I find so fascinating about this is it's become a kind of a Rorschach test for all the rest of us. It looks to me like he just, he had a very, very tenuous relationship with the United States that mostly was involved around his being here, going to college. And, he's living full-time in Singapore, likes it there. But the people on the conservatives are saying, oh, he's doing it because he'll pay lower taxes in Singapore, or he won't have to pay taxes on his Facebook earnings. Although it turns out that he's going to have to pay taxes on his Facebook earnings. So what's going on here?
Well, I think that it actually matters very little. This is one of those, it is, what lesson are you going to draw from this particular case of whether this guy is going to owe taxes and how much he owes is really not the point. I think the real question here is how do people act when tax laws change? And I think the lesson in all of this is that tax laws matter, and very few people pay higher taxes than they have to out of a sense of patriotism. Even guys like Warren Buffett, who talk a lot about wanting to be taxed more, when at the end of the day they use fancy lawyers and try their very best to minimize their tax liabilities. And that's really what this is about. I don't think this guy is a hero. He's just somebody acting in his own self-interest, and Americans should be warned that that's what the people do.
Forbes is calling him a hero. But if that's what rich people do, if they just say, to hell with the country that, frankly, Facebook would not have been able to make a penny if it wasn't for the Internet. The Internet was created originally as DARPANet. It was created with U.S. taxpayer dollars. You and I, Carrie, we built the infrastructure for the Internet that made Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin billionaires. And for them to not pay back on that just seems churlish.
But, Tom, I think that you're making the mistake to think that people assume that giving taxes is somehow a noble cause, and that people in Washington are so smart about what they're going to be doing with those money that when I pay taxes, I'm doing good. No, a lot of guys out there, and I assume that Mr. Buffett faces the same logic, think, well, if I keep this money, I'm going to do much better things with it. It's going to be better for the country, better for poor people.
Well, I disagree, and I think a lot of people disagree, Carrie. I just, on its face, and I know that Warren Buffett would disagree with that. We need the commons not to be in the hands of greedy private corporations or people like Mitt Romney. We need the commons to be in the hands of we the people. And frankly, we don't know why Eduardo Saverin is leaving. But the question I'd ask you is, I don't recall in the 19-teens when the income tax rate in the United States went from basically nothing all the way up to 91% as we went into World War I. I don't recall the Rockefellers or the Morgans or the DuPonts or the Fairchilds or the Goulds, the railroad fortunes. I don't recall any of them saying, "To hell with it, I'm out of here. I'm leaving my country." I don't. And then the tax rate got dropped when Harding came into office in 21 from 91% down to 25%. Stayed there until the Great Crash in 29. Roosevelt took it back up to 91% again. And again, I don't remember an exodus of billionaires. Why is it that this generation is so much more greedy, selfish, and self-centered and doesn't give a rat's ass about their nation, whereas previous generations of very wealthy people had that sense of noblesse oblige, the sense that they actually do owe something back to the country that made them so rich?
Well, I think there's a lot of reason we can talk about what's wrong with young people today as much as we want, but the simple fact of why more people are changing their tax jurisdictions is because they can. It doesn't matter. We all know we are an increasingly...
They could in 1880.
global warm. No, Tom, but if you were going to go someplace else, you then couldn't participate in the American economy. You can run a business, you can do, you can enjoy a lot of the things that used to be just limited to one country much better now, wherever you are overseas.
So your argument is that they're doing it now because they can.
Because they can, absolutely. And
isn't that kind of tragic?
No, I don't, because I don't think it's crazy to want to keep more of your money, and
even if you have billions.
Well, no, I think.
How much is enough,
billions? Carrie? If you have billions,
this guy's going to have $3.8 billion.
That's
fine,
and
he might save a couple $100 million in taxes. This is money that he'll never even. You got $3 billion. You couldn't, if you were spending it at the rate of $1 million a day. It would take several lifetimes to spend.
But Tom, then what's the government going to do with it? We now see what the trash.
They're going to educate the kids that are using your product.
Go take it. We've seen how government goes and takes it to Vegas and has clowns and entertainers come for boondoggle vacations. We see all of the
fact that you guys were able to bust the which agency was it that did that?
That was the GSA.
GSA. You guys were able to bust the GSA for doing something which is absolutely routine in corporate America. I don't hear any outrage from you or any of your peers about the fact that the very same thing is being done by our health insurance companies.
I don't care but that's their money. This is our money. That's the problem with tax money.
Except for the fact that I think that when the health insurance companies take my money, it's still my money.
But Tom, it's only the health insurance is a
but the fact that you busted those guys from the GSA proves, and it's not going to happen again, and people lost their jobs over it, proves that government can be responsive to we the people when they get out of line.
It's because
that's a good thing.
No, but things go on like that all the time. We know from the Soleandra case, where you had government giving $500 million or whatever it was to a company just because it has political connections. This happens all the time.
Well, that stipulation is I believe that's a false stipulation, Carrie. Soleandra is nowhere near that simple. It's been turned into that kind of right-wing talking point, but I'm guessing you haven't seriously investigated that.
No, I haven't. I've read the newspapers, Tom, and I think you know as well as I do that there's tremendous amounts of corporate welfare of people who are giving away the government.
So let's stop giving money away to the oil industry. Why is it that every single Republican in the House and Senate wants to keep the oil industry subsidized in place?
Let's stop giving away from all of them. And one, we can make the tax code transparent, lower the rates, get rid of all the deductions, and let's stop with programs like Soleandra, which pick one company that happens to have great political connections.
But when you have Carrie, let me push back on that. When you have a situation where our sovereignty is in the hands of the Saudis, I think it's a good thing to subsidize companies like Soleandra. And you're going to have some failures, but at least you take a chance and you try to say, we don't want to be beholden to Saudi Arabia anymore.
You know what, Tom? There'll be
What's
a million
wrong with
better.
that?
Because it doesn't end up. It never ends up as clean as that. Because we all know
it doesn't surprise
anyone in America that everybody who gets the money from those programs ends up being somebody who's given political donations.
It worked out well when we built the internet. It worked out well when we electrified America. It worked out well when the Rural Telephony Administration put telephone lines across the United States. I think it could work out well if we built out a solar infrastructure.
We'll see. I think American people are going to see a lot of money go down the drain before we reach any of those goals.
Well, and I suspect most of it's going to go down the drains in the pockets of the CEOs of the health insurance companies. My personal obsession. Carrie Lukas with the Independent Women's Forum. IWF.org is the website. Carrie, thank you again for being with us.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Always good talking to you. 15 minutes past the hour.